Malta is important for early European history and agriculture. The megalithic temples of the Mediterranean islands of Malta and Gozo, particularly those like Ġgantija on Gozo and Ħaġar Qim on Malta, are provenly older than 5600 to 5200 years, and the cart Ruts could be even older. 5600 and even 5200 BP is already before the population turnover events that will replace the then-present Europeans, and replace them with those who today represent the modern Europeans. 60% of the today Europeans carry YHPR, with some of the most important replacements being as recent as 4500 BP. David Reich, 2021. It also is 2000 years before the Late Bronze Age collapse that occurred around 3100 BP. It also is before or overlapping with the dawn of the Bronze Age, that began around 5300 BP. It is also 500 or more years before even the earliest Egyptian pyramid. The earliest pyramid, the Step Pyramid of Djoser, was constructed around 4650 BP. In other words, the people that built those particular Malta temples could have been, and according to us of origin for existence, are responsible and key for all the important events in Europe, and beyond, mentioned here in temporal order. Late Bronze Age collapse, definitive population, peopling, of Europe, all Egyptian pyramids, and the start of the Bronze Age itself. That is before all European history, except for Göbekli Tepe in the south of Turkey at the border with Syria, which we claim not to be directly related to European history. Göbekli Tepe is not part of Europe. Göbekli Tepe, while it stands out in many ways, is part of a larger network of similar sites in the region between South Turkey and North Syria, particularly in the Urfa area of southeastern Turkey. These sites share characteristics like the use of T-shaped pillars and similar architectural styles, suggesting a shared cultural and religious context. One of the closest and most well-known sister sites is Karahan Tepe. Syria is located in the Middle East, specifically in West Asia. It is part of the region known as the Levant, which is also considered part of the Middle East. Syria does not belong to Europe geographically. Göbekli Tepe, and its network part of Turkey, certainly do not belong to Europe geologically, since they lie on the extreme north of the Arabian Tectonic Plate. Further, this part is separated from Europe by a series of mountain ranges that run in west-eastern direction, which also involve the East Anatolian Fault, and even host a number of volcanoes. The network of sites that Göbekli Tepe is part of are all south of the southern Taurus Mountains. In other words, Göbekli Tepe and all the networks it is part of, including the Fertile Crescent, a region known as the Cradle of Civilization, are not part of, or is only marginally part of Europe, and all are physically separated from Europe, something that makes Malta even more important in European history. Malta Temple timeline. The Malta Temple, subject of this comment and video, is roughly only 500 years after the onset of the Sumerian Civilization, which flourished in southern Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq, from approximately 6100 BP. Göbekli Tepe, but also Malta, are challenging the development of early human societies, metallurgy and agriculture. Reinterpreting early Neolithic societies. The findings at Göbekli Tepe and related sites, and also at Malta, together challenge previous assumptions about the development of early human societies, demonstrating the possibility of complex social organization and ritual practices among supposed hunter-gatherer groups before the rise of settled agriculture. Possibly Malta, but almost certainly Göbekli Tepe are related to the onset of the Sumerian civilization, and much more importantly, most probably they have the same origin. As there are similarities between the Malta temples, Göbekli Tepe and the network of similar sites in the Urfa area of southeastern Turkey. This even so while the provingly dated Malta Temple is roughly 7,000 years after Göbekli Tepe, present-day Turkey. Göbekli Tepe, but also Malta are out of America. All verified ancestral markers, and even Y-DNA itself, point to the Americas and out of America. Searching for ancestral markers. Put the words between quotes, on YouTube. While learning to avoid the consensus traps, you can easily verify this for yourself. The most dangerous trap is mtDNAL itself, this even while it is a weaker and younger marker, simply because scientific consensus still claims it is African and 200,000 years old. This while it is known for years that mtDNAL is carried by Neanderthals, and that Neanderthals arose in the Americas. Further, mtDNAL was present in Native Americans, as well as all eventual other pre-Columbian Americans. Neanderthals and Modern Humans. That includes Native Americans, as well as eventual other pre-Columbian Americans, share a common ancestor, and the scientific consensus is that their lineages diverged around 500,000 years ago. Some evidence suggests the split Neanderthals and humans may have occurred as early as 650,000 years ago. In other words, mtDNAL is certainly older than 200,000 years old, and most probably more than 650,000 years old. It is certainly not African, and all verified ancestral markers indicate it is American and out of the Americas.